All right. It should be working. Okay. This is kind of the last setup video we have before we really do an assignment. And this one really is related to setting up a template, at least initially. So this one will just this video will be for just before I start drawing on the template assignment, I'm going to just do the last little bit of setup. So what we're steering towards here in 1108 is um, creating this template, this ASME inch template on letter size or 8.5 by 11 inch paper. So I just have this last little setup using some of the resources for CAD that we have. So I'm in the above week one where our resources are. There's one document I want to pull up here that I need to reference to do this last video before I'm totally ready to run. But it's the ASME line types and line weights for AutoCAD. So the first one that I have in my group of resources for AutoCAD, where I have all my templates and I have the shortcut guide. The first one is the line types and weights. So I'm going to open this up. It's just a PDF. I'm going to pull this over to my other screen to work from it. I wonder, I'll have to see how clear this is for you guys. Funny, it doesn't show like really clear as I pull it up just on my screen. I may have to make copies of this. I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna bring up. I'll check this with you guys to see what issues you have. But um, I'm gonna pull this resource up, which is in my CAD 1108 general area. I should have a line type. Yeah, semi line type weights. So this is the same document. Maybe I do need to bring it in. This is the document I'm going to be using. I wonder if you download if it'll be clear because it should be the same document. We'll check that. But if in the case it's not, I will re-upload it to this. So what's on screen is what I need to make. And so this is the first kind of creation that we've had to do in CAD, and it's still just getting us set up to do an assignment. But I call these ASME line types, line weights. And so what I'll show you is we have to create this. And I'll show you where we create this in CAD. So these are the layers we'll use, and it's really critical that create this on a template file so that I do it once, and then I always have these layers made. And there are ways to get layers quickly from another drawing in, and I'll show you that. But first, we're going to do it painstakingly, like creating each layer individually. And so these are the ones we need to create, with some of them being automatically populated, especially the def points. One is one that I did not personally create, but AutoCAD automatically creates this once I start doing some drawing. And so that might be the only one. I think we're bringing in. I think we built the XREF layer. Yeah, yeah. So I think everything else we got to build. So I'm gonna pull this over to my other screen and have it up so I can work on it. Um, I'll minimize. Oh, wait. Yeah, I'm just gonna just shrink this down a little bit. Um, yeah, yes, that's up on my other screen so I can see what line types I'm working with here. Get myself set up. Okay. So I'm in CAD on the start menu. So I've just started CAD. This time, instead of just using the plus button, I just use that plus just to get into a drawing environment and to explain draw and modify commands. This time, I actually am going to strategically pick up a template file to start with. So I'm going to start a new file here. This will be something. This will be the first thing really that I'm going to save to my drive. So this will be the first video that's heading me in that direction. So I'm not going to start from here. I'm going to start a new one. So I can either start here or up here. I think I told you that I usually use this, and a lot of times I like to browse templates. I know you might not have these show up anyway because if you haven't used them, there's no like last use selection available. So you likely need to browse templates. It's going to go to the download file that was created by AutoCAD when you downloaded the program. So the one that I want to use as my base drop for a template file of my own is the AutoCAD ACAD in lowercase template file. So this one should be available to you. I think I told you the first, I mean, the ones we're going to use to make templates are going to be this one and then the ISO one. And primarily it's just because the units are set to the units that I want. Even though I think as we've downloaded in America CAD, I think the units for my little drawings that I've done already on the videos are already in inches because that's the default as it opens. And so I'll show you how to check that though when I go into the environment. But so I'm going to choose this. I'm going to choose this one and I'm going to say open this up. And it's going to look like not any different than me drawing in the previous videos. You know, looking at this, it looks the same. Everything's active now. It is a template file. Um, what I want us to do is get used to anytime I open a template file, I'm gonna do like a save as. And but the funny thing is I just kind of want a new name for this is why more than anything. I still want to keep it as a .dwt file, a template file, but I want to create a new name. So let's do that. Let's just do a save as. It's like my go-to once I've opened my template that I'm always doing a save as. And I usually do it pretty early on in the creation process. So I just remember that I've just opened my template. Let's go ahead and save this, usually as a drawing. But in this case, I'm still going to maintain that it's a template. This little dialog box shows up. Where am I going to save it? Well, it's going to be on your thumb drive likely. And so you might have to drive down to that. You may have to like go to your desktop and then find out where your thumb drive's plugged in. Mine's on the D drive. This is my thumb drive, sorry. And this is my folder that I put all my stuff in. And I'm in 1108, just the way I've organized mine by weeks. And we're technically in week 2. I might need to update some of the stuff online to have the right week. But yeah, we're just starting the end of week 2 right now. So um, I actually keep my templates in my general area, but you can choose. I would probably keep your templates not in some buried week as you grow, and not that you have to structure your files like me either. But I'm actually gonna put mine in. That's what my general file is for things that are I need in every week, pretty much. And so I'm not going to save it as a drawing. It already knows, like, because I opened a template and it is a template, it already wants to create a drawing from that. In the options menu, we kind of look, I don't know if I've really pointed that out, but that's just a default that's set up. It can be changed, but it's just like it's the default I normally want is that a template file by nature, when I do a save as, is going to become a drawing file. So it's kind of already strategically set up that way. The interesting thing is I still want to keep this as a template file. In this situation, it's not, it's only, I only do this when I'm just, making modifications to my template. You guys don't even have a template other than the ones that I've preloaded. So you're kind of creating your own first template. And so let's do this. So you'll see that like to start, this is where, yeah, I think I've related to the difference in how like a drafting program might teach CAD is we're already going to worry about templates and drawings and those sheets that I'm going to make even before I learn all the ins and outs of drawing. So I tend to do like this, like I feel like this course is kind of front loaded to kind of be a little bit more file management, a little bit more print properties set up. Like it's a little heavy on just kind of like a normal, the Windows function of CAD here. And then we'll get to drawing and creating. But I always like to have like the real deal that I'm going to create from up front. So that's why we spend a little bit of time diving into templates. And it makes, our curriculum just a little bit unique. But let's see template file is what I'm going to keep this as. So if I'm going to drop down in here and there's probably only one AutoCAD drawing template. Yeah, that's still what I'm creating. So I don't want it to convert itself to a drawing yet. I want to keep this thing as a .dwt. It's going to drive to where all my other .dwts are, but I'm actually, you like me may have to find where your thumb drive is. I'm gonna have to find it again, but it's actually, right here for me. And I know I'm going to drive down to that same class. I'm going to put this thing in the general area. I'm going to give it a unique name from what I have. It's actually different than I have here anyway. So technically, I probably have a copy of this type of template somewhere, but I don't necessarily have it. It might be one of these ISU ones. It might be that one. I can't say for sure until I open it. Probably it's one of these two, but I'm going to name it just some unique name that is like, um, yeah, I like the ASME. In fact, it might be, yeah, I think it's going to be ASME. Um, this is going to be, we're going to modify this a couple times actually. So I don't want to like totally, pigeonhole the name into only one type of size. I mean, I know initially for the first assignment we upload will be the 8.5 by 11 template. And so I want to add that to it, but I'm going to say it's going to be an inch template. I like this saying inch. ASME inch. And maybe I'll just say 2025 right now. Just some description for me. It's an ASME. It's going to be in inches. I chose that template already. It's already units are inches. I'll show you how to check that though. So I'm just going to give it this name. It's my 2025 template. I'm going to save it in my folder. There it is. I think it gives you this little dialog box. Hey, normal English feet and inches drawings template uses color dependent plot styles. I think you'll get sometimes different descriptions when you're using this, but yeah, I'm not gonna save all layers as unreconciled. Okay, I'm just gonna say okay on this. I don't think there's anything I'm gonna be alarmed of this. Other than now I have, that this is not just modifying that template from that template folder, but this is actually a new, different template saved on my drive, something I can create from. So it's a blank slate. Um, how you can always verify, really critical with your templates to make sure you didn't get the wrong one, especially when you're setting up a template, is to verify the units. And I don't think there's a great noticeable place on the ribbon menu to check units. So it is one that I do have memorized to use the keystrokes of, which is just enter U. I think it's the first thing that comes up with U. And you think of units, units is just the units that we're dealing with that we're drawing in. So U for units. And I'm just going to hit enter. And let me see here. U for units. Maybe I have to select right here. Oh yeah, because actual units are UN for units. If I actually just wanted to hit that, and then this little dialog box shows up here. This is the master control for like what units we're dealing with here. And I would want to verify this on any template I built. Yeah, that it's going to be a decimal type length. We're not doing architectural stuff anymore, so this is where I would change to have feet and inches as the readout, or I would have maybe a fractional readout. For me, ASME standard is going to be a decimal readout, decimal inches, decimal millimeters. In this case, it's going to be decimal out to 4 decimal places. Yeah, for my drawing, this isn't dimensioning decimal places. This is like when when I'm at the when the cursor's up and it's reading me out my data input that I can put. It's like its level of accuracy is out to 4 decimal places, which is totally changeable. I'm going to leave it as 4 decimal places though. Um, yeah, and and then angle type is the same, decimal degrees, although I could change this to degrees, minutes, and seconds. Radians. Oh yeah, we're going to keep this decimal degrees as ASME standard. The precision is within 1 degree, I guess, or just zero. Yeah, these are precision. So on the degrees, I'm like whole degrees. So if I had a need for a higher level of accuracy in my degrees, I would probably need to up and give myself some decimal degrees to capture those minutes and seconds. So I think I'm just gonna leave this at zero right now. I can double check that one. It's funny that kind of has me thinking. But anyway, whether my angle is read from like clockwise or counterclockwise is I can change it or reverse it here. I think the default will be counterclockwise, and then I could change it to a clockwise kind of readout in angles. Um, Yeah. And then this is the big heavy hitter though. Well, my insertion scale is inches. Yes, making sure that that is inches. And I think that's it. Yeah. Just a double check of that. I didn't change anything. I just looked at it essentially. So I'm just going to say, okay. It was just a verification that if I'm going to spend the time to make this template, at least make sure the units are correct and they are what you expected to be there. So this really trips a lot of students up when we move to the metric one. They forget if they don't pick the metric template to create from that they have to change the units, and it kind of becomes a problem. So we've checked our units. We like this, and now I'm ready to create And the first thing to be able to create anything with is I got to establish layers. And so I have that layers PDF up. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up our layers property. So right now this drop down shows that I have only one layer. And I don't know what's the best way to explain what layers are. To me, I view them as like layers are like different overlays of sheets. Like if several sheets like lined up together, and some of them have some information on them. All these different sheets when I stack them up, if I've drawn something and I've drawn a little bit of information on each sheet, I can kind of peel away the layers and look at specific things. So I use some strategy of this layering. It's always been involved in AutoCAD to use layers to your benefit because drawings get crowded really in a hurry. And so it's nice to be able, when you establish things on certain layers, you can definitely do. I mean, one of the things, if I bring back over my what I'm going to build here is I'm going to build these layers that have some different colors. I mean, there are some overlapping colors, and they're going to have different line types, and they're going to have different line weights associated with them. Those are the main things I'm going to set up just to make some differentiation, like to make some, yeah, to differentiate in my drawing what's what. Center lines are going to be red. They're going to be a light. Center lines are going to be red. They're going to be a light line weight. They're going to have a particular type of line type that's associated with them. And likewise, visible or object lines are the real common line to show an object is going to be this visible object line. It's going to be white, continuous, and kind of on the heavy side. Um, yeah. So let's build this. This is what's kind of like the last bit before we really get to our assignment. To do that, I'm just going to go to layer properties, and it should bring up that dialog box somewhere. Sometimes it bounces over to my other screen. Um, I don't. Where is it at? Oh, I don't know. I didn't push it good enough, I guess. I don't know. Here it is, a big layer properties. Yours might show up really small. I don't know. I can change the size of this box. There's a side grip. I kind of stretch it out when I'm building this. It's a nice little interface. To move these around, you have to look at which side has the docking side. Like I could dock this over here, but that's the look of what will happen if I move over and I wants to dock. It's going to do that. It's going to be like, yeah, I'll dock it there. I can dock it on this side, maybe. Yeah. Either way, I'm just going to leave it in the middle for a minute. I have zero layers. I have a zero layer. That's really common. I mean, it's going to create it's going to start with at least a layer. They call it a zero layer. I leave it. I don't usually modify that one. I just leave the zero layer. There's a reason for it, and we'll bring some stuff into the zero layer. So I leave it. I leave it white continuous. I'll bring up my document again. I think my zero layer I kept it on default. So it's just white continuous and a pretty light line. Okay. And it does plot the zero layer, but I think I end up turning off the zero. I don't know. We'll look at that. What I have in this browser is a place to, oh, it's a super deep little thing actually. My the main thing I'm going to this might be when I have a bunch to search them because you can get drawings that have hundreds of layers, and this does become sometimes a filter search on the layer I'm looking for, and some other manager stuff that I have, and what a new group filter. Okay, so I'm not going to go into too much right here. What I want to look at here is populate some layers out here, and so what I have the option to is create a new layer, freeze a layer, a new layer frozen in all viewports. Okay, it's like creating a frozen layer. A frozen layer, just like the biggest advantage of freezing a layer is that it kind of like stops the computer from having to compute and keep track of that layer. And so that can kind of free up, like I said, if you have hundreds of layers and some of them I just don't need them to continually compute and slow and bog down my RAM or my memory on my computer, I start freezing layers to kind of free up some of just the operability of the program. And can that actually affect the file size? I think so. So we don't get into this a lot in this first little bit. So just keep that as a thing that I may or may not use at times or be aware of when I freeze a layer and what it does. We'll come back to it. Deleting layers is obviously this one. I can just choose a layer and delete it. No big deal. Unless I had a bunch of information on it, and then I just lost all that information. And then set current. Okay, so the check mark one is the one that I have current. Currently, I only have one layer, so the check mark status is on my zero layer. It's got a name. It's on. It's not frozen. This layer cannot be frozen because it's the current layer. Okay, close. I have to be off the layer to freeze it. I can lock it. So it can't be moved around and lost or deleted maybe from. And I can choose whether it's plotted or printed or not. So, okay, let's create a layer though. This is what we got to do. Create our ASME layers for our template. New layer, create it. It's going to take whatever one you were on. Let's show you, okay, whichever one I have highlighted here. It's going to actually take the properties of that layer and recreate it. It's going to almost create from there. So this one just kind of came over like it's almost like a copy of zero. And now I can go ahead and start modifying it. So I can give it a new name. I think ours end up in alphabetical order, I think, for the most part. When you type into CAD, everything's in caps for the most part. Like there's very few reasons that I would use small letters as just kind of like my ASME standard for notes on drawings is all going to be in caps. I mean, it looks like we're yelling, but we just get used to it's the format is that it's most things are in caps. Even when I do stuff like this, I generally have it in caps. So my caps is on a lot in as I'm writing and typing and doing dimensioning in drawings. So this one is border sheet is what it's called, border sheet. I've named it. I can go ahead and keep it on. This is okay. Border sheet, I will be a printable layer. I want it to show up on my plotting. I actually want it to be blue here, so I'm going to choose blue. Yeah, just I think it's just a regular blue. Now the color of my line will be blue is what that will be. When I draw, it won't be that white. The reason why everything we've drawn so far on any of my videos has been white is because the default layer is white. Shows up good against a black background. So it's going to be a continuous line type for border sheet, but it's going to be quite thick. It's like a border on our sheet of our template. And so it's 0.5 millimeters. Uh, it's a continuous line, but it's 0.5 millimeters thick as the line weight. So it's not this default line weight. I click on it, it brings up this other browser. So it's a browser and a browser here. It looks like our line weights are always, I know this is confusing because I'm in an inch template. So you think you'd see these like in inches, but it's actually the line types are millimeter, whatever template I'm in. So this is a 0.5. It's like the thickest that we'll have is something like this. So that's how I created a layer. I'm gonna continue to do this for every one that's on this sheet. So you can see how many times I have to do this. I'll probably pause my video and just like uh, chunk away at this and get them all created. But what am I doing? I'm trying to, I don't know. My Adobe is being weird. Okay. It's my problem actually. Okay. But I'm going to go through and create all of these the same way I just did that. I'll do a few more though on screen before I push pause because I want to show you how to choose these different line types here. So let me create these B's and get into a C, and I'll show you how we find these. There's only a few different line types. I mean, continuous is just a continuous line. That means it doesn't break or have any like spaces or dashes. It's just a continuous line. And center to center, these are these ones that have a little bit of, I mean, they have like dashes, like long, short, and that really is a visual representation of a different type of line. Even though in CAD, we're going to make a lot of color coding and it's going to look really colorful. And even the PDFs that I have you send me are all nice and color coded. In reality, we don't print a bunch of color prints. We just print in monochrome or just black and white. And as you know, that's just primarily how we've always created prints is in black and white, which is why we still, because we lose our colors association that we might have while we're on CAD, and the print is going to become black and white. And so what helps us, just like as if pencil drawings were, what helps us differentiate and what lines are doing what is their line weight and their line type. And so we can pick different line types and different line weights. That way, when things are in black and white, it's clear as a bell what is. So I'm just gonna make a couple more though. So I'm gonna be on this one now. If I have this one highlighted and I create new here, it kind of brings some of that some of the stuff from that in. So I need to give it a new name, of course, always a new name. It's break and long. It's a type of line, a break line. I'm not sure what chapter we get into what that one actually is, but it's going to be used down the road. It's a light. It's like everything's the same except for the line weight is really light. It's a 0.13 millimeter. 0.13 millimeter. I'm gonna say okay. So pretty much the same color, but it's really light. What differentiates it between a border or sheet is that it's such a lighter line weight line. Still continuous though. Let's make another one. Doesn't really matter. I can use this. I want it to be blue again, the next one, so I'll just use this one and I'll name it what? Break short. If we have short break lines or long break lines, we'll get to it. We have both in some of our drawings. So what differentiates a long from a short is really its weight, which is I think is 0.4 millimeters according to our, yeah. It's not as thick as our border. It's a little bit thicker though. Those all three have a little bit different line weights. The next one is the first one that's really a different line type. So I'll just make it from here. I'll just copy this one essentially. But this one's going to change a bit. It's a center. Oh, we use a ton of center. Center lines. You can write center line or center. I just write center, I think. It's red though. Just regular old red. I don't use any of the fancy colors. I try to use just like the primary index colors. I think all of my colors are just really from the main color scheme here. And I don't have to use any real fancy ones. And I wouldn't encourage you to do it yet. I mean, there might be a reason why if I had a lot more layers, I might add some different color, but yeah, just red. It's not continuous though. So if I select here, it brings up this dialog box. I'm gonna scooch over. Well, it won't let me do that, but I'll bring this across so I can look at it. But it's like, okay, loaded line types. The really only one that I've loaded because I haven't even searched for any yet is this continuous line. So if I want to load some, I'm going to go to this load. And these are going to be preloaded stuff that came with the program when it downloaded. So here's I'm in 3 dialog boxes deep. This is common in CAD, dialog box after dialog box. But here's ones that were already kind of in this file of ACAD lines, essentially. Like it's driving down to this file that it preloaded, and it has all these options. So the one that we want for our center lines is center 2. A lot of them are just, they already have some like different line type scales on them to where they're finer or coarser is the difference in some of these. But I'm looking for center 2. Yeah, it's kind of like a center line, short, long, short, long. That's the center line indicator. It's just that it's a little bit finer line than the center only. So center 2, I'm going to say okay. And then it's loaded it into this first selection box. So I can load a few more here. Like it would save me from having to go to the second dialog box every time. Well, kind of. But if I load these, I think they'll stay till your computer gets wiped probably. The different line types I'll need though are regular center, continuous, hidden to, phantom, and a dot. So I'm gonna look for these other line types and just load them into my options here. And then when I go to actually add them, it'll be quick because they'll already be loaded in the first dialog box. So I'm gonna load regular center. Okay. So I've got center 2, continuous. I need a hidden 2, so I'll load a hidden one. I think they're alphabetically arranged here. So if I go down to H's, hidden. I think I want a hidden 2. It's just a little bit finer. It's kind of like finer than hidden, but it's a uniform dashed line is the difference here. So I'm gonna say okay. Uniform dashed line, hidden 5. Got it. Hidden 2, sorry. I need a phantom, just phantom. So let's look for phantom. I don't know what all my options are on phantom, but let's go down to the P's. I have a phantom and a phantom 2. So phantom, difference maybe between it is a long double dash, and it's gonna be a really heavy line, not necessarily. I have two. Oh, phantoms and planes. Okay, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna say just regular phantom. What other line types? We just have dot. So another type would be dot. Let's go down to D's. I'm sure it's going to look just like it says, a dot. I can't say we even did a drawing using this line type. It ends up being under the stitch lines, and that's got a real specific application of what you'll see that in your theory book though, where we would use a dot or a line called a stitch line. So I'll say okay. So at least I've loaded my line types now. I'm going to say okay. Except for I never picked the one I want for my center, which is center 2. Yeah, center 2 and say okay. that loaded that there. But the center two line is really a thin line. It's a center lines are always quite light on the line type, 0.13. So this is how we do. So now I'm just gonna pause, go through, create them all, and then have them here. So if I ever needed to delete one, it's just a matter of selecting one and deleting it. Um, I can, and this is like the main dialog box for your line properties, which is where I got to from here. Sometimes I just use the drop down once I have them. Like I'll go ahead and X this out now. You can send this back away, but now I'm starting to have some content to create from different layers that I can kind of layer on top of each other here on this drawing. So yeah, I'll go ahead and pause this and finish it out. Yeah, okay. I think I'm done creating my layers. So I just went through line by line on that PDF and just matched it, colors and line types and line weights. The last thing I need to do before I just kind of leave here is some of these, the plot category here, we want to pay attention to because when it looks like this, it means that all of these will plot. They will show up on your drawing. And so this is nice that a lot of times I use layers for construction purposes and for other reasons, and I don't want those to print when I print my drawing. I don't want them to show up on my PDF or a hard copy print. So what I do is I just select this to unselect the printer. So viewports are ones that we do not want to show up on our drawings. Viewports, we'll see them because we're going to get into them right away when we make a template. But uh, you'll see them in the paper space and they'll be visual, but we don't want the border around them because I like to put a yellow. I mean, the way we've set up our viewports will have a yellow border and they'll be kind of heavy on the 0.3 millimeter side and they'll be continuous. So they'll look like they're going to be, obtuse on your drawing or whatever, but we're just going to make sure they don't print. I like to see them. You got to be able to see them and identify where your viewport is on your drawing. And some drawings, we can put a lot of viewports in on drawings to specifically look at areas of our objects, and we use viewports to do that. We just don't want the borders of those viewports to print. So I unselect that to print, and then the stuff inside the viewport will print. It's just the border of the viewport will not print, is what I'm choosing here. And I don't want my paper to print. So this is kind of a funny one, like definitely not an ASME standard necessarily. That's why I said I call these ASME line types, line weights with you know, loosely because paper is just something we use strategically. I don't want it to print. I even have it kind of just a gray, and I only use it to replicate what the paper size looks like. And so anyway, I'm not going to have it print. In case I left it on, I don't want it to print. And construction. Construction is simply for that. I do a lot of construction line work on a construction layer. It helps me get things in the right position. And I put all that kind of like it's just construction work and it gets messy. And sometimes one layer of construction is not enough. Sometimes I have to create multiple layers of construction one, two, three, and they have different reasons. So it's not always enough to have one construction layer, but initially it will be. And I just don't want those construction lines to print. They'll be that, so that'll be good. And then is that the last one? I think so. These are the three that I toggle off so they do not plot and print with my drawing. And that's where I kind of control that. So that's the end of layers. And that's really the end of this video that I want to show. I think that's the bulk of setup here, but you've done a ton of work to this, right? This is, little bit manual entry data. And so I've done some work on this template, which I saved here. I think auto saving every 10 minutes is what it's doing. But I definitely have some modifications that asterisk shows I need to save this. So I'm going to go ahead and save. And that should take care of at least the layers that we need. Now I have a bunch of options for layers. That's great. I can choose to draw on all of these, and what will happen is those line types and line weights will be associated with that layer. So when I go to draw that, it'll be those different colors and those different lines. All right. And some of them you use more than others, and some students have chosen, like you can see that it actually the way it assembles your layers are alphabetically. And I've seen some students like put their top five they use all the time with a number in front of it, and then it will put numbers before letters. And so you kind of like a word, kind of like a file structure would. You could strategically you come back into here. I don't do this. I leave them in alpha. I just leave the letters in front, but in alphabetical. But you could come back in here and put. So I've seen some students put a digit in front of that. That would be one that you would not use that often. So I mean, the ones that you're going to use the most are going to be visible object. You're going to use viewports. We're going to be using a ton of text. We're going to eventually use some of these others, but we're going to use initially paper, but that won't be that widely used. We'll use hidden lines like crazy. We'll use construction lines and dimension lines. We'll use center lines. So I would say my heavy hitters are going to be center, construction, dimension, hidden, text, and visible and object. There's five or six that are definitely more used than the rest. The rest have specific reasons. So, okay, I'm going to save this, call this good, and post this up. This is how to set up layers. We still have the next one will be it will be getting these layouts figured out. So, every template it seems like or new drawing kind of starts with two layouts they give you. Um, and so I think we will set up both of these layouts. I'll set up one layout as an 8.5 by 11 layout, and I might set up the other layout to be an 11 by 17. So that's kind of like A size, B size in the ASME inch units of paper size. So yeah, we'll catch that on the next one.